Well, hey, a warm welcome, everybody, and thanks for coming by the Milrad Lab. I appreciate you being here. This place is going to serve as a long or permanent journal of my hand loading and marksmanship efforts and investigations into what works or what goes right and what doesn't. The majority of the content you're going to find here on my channel is really aimed at the common person utilizing affordable equipment and materials that most people anywhere can afford to source. What you're going to see in the first few minutes of this video is a brief overview of my reloading process, sort of start to finish, in some small clips. It leaves out a ton of detail in every single area. This is just a cursory overview, if you will, so you can see sort of how I do stuff from beginning to end. So here's how I do most of my depriming using a Frankfurt Arsenal hand depriming tool. Very economical, works really well. Can be rough on your hands. You notice I've got some tape on the grip and wearing a work glove. Here I'm depriming military crimp brass. That's not a whole lot of fun. After depriming, all my brass goes into the tumbler with some steel pin media. I use Dawn dish soap or Dawn power wash. I know everybody has a different soap they like. That just happens to be the one I go with. And I tumble it for about an hour and a half, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. It's going to depend on how dirty and how it looks. After being separated from the steel pin media, it goes in the dryer, and it'll be dry in a couple hours or so. Then it'll be ready for annealing. So on to annealing. I anneal after every firing, and not everybody does that. It's a personal preference. Here I'm using my Annealese machine. This is an old one. This is either a first or second generation machine. Does a good job. You need to employ things like Tempelac when you first set it up for each brand or caliber, so you can figure out where your temperature setting should be as far as torch distance and your wheel speed. It does a pretty good job. Here you see a 308 casing off to the left that is not annealed. The one on the right is annealed. That one's actually over annealed. I sort of did that on purpose so there'd be some dramatic effect. This is what I prefer doing, is annealing before sizing. After annealing, I like to lubricate the brass before full length sizing, which obviously you have to do. Here I'm using one shot. I like to spray it from all four sides. That way I never risk having a stuck case. The other thing I do when I'm utilizing one shot is to let the propellant or accelerant, whatever you want to call it, dry completely before you take it and start running cases up into your dies. Next on to full length sizing. Here I've got my die already set up. Run your casing up into your die, and then you're going to check it and make sure you've made the correct effect on it. In the case of this open mouth 350 Legend casing I'm measuring here, I'm just looking to see if I drew the case body back into SAMI spec, which indeed we did. Next step will be trimming the brass to length. Here I'm using an old school hand trimmer. Bunch of different ways to do this. I don't mind doing it that way, but it does take time. There's no doubt about it. It can be a time eater. After trimming the length, I'm going to deburr, chamfer, and clean that casing out. Make sure there's no errant chips or shavings inside of it. And it'll be ready for the next step. After deburring and chamfering, it's time to prime these casings. Here I'm using a RCBS hand priming tool. I'm a big fan. Real simple device, works pretty well. With my casings all primed, it's time for me to start charging those casings. Going to throw some powder here with an old school powder thrower and trickler combo. Nothing wrong with this setup, works just fine. That powder dispenser is a RCBS Uniflow 3. It comes with one of RCBS's reloading kits. That powder trickler is a Redding trickler, and it's sitting on top of an A&D FZ120i scale. Here you're going to see me put that measured or weighed charge into that casing and ensure that it all gets down there to the bottom. And then before I put it back in the loading block, I'm going to stick a bullet in it to make sure that I can't lose any powder or suffer any contaminants getting in. Last step, seating these bullets using the appropriate seating die with the appropriate seating stem. And of course, I'll measure cartridge-based ogive length because that is the number I use to determine consistency between each load. With that accomplished, you got load and ammo ready to go to the range. Like I said, this is a very brief overview For a viewer who hasn't seen video number one, or perhaps is watching a follow-on video and wants to know how I take fired brass and take it to the point of loading where you're seeing it in another video. That's all for now. Thanks for stopping by. Take care and shoot straight.